Into the first story, we have the designer babies boom. Cindy?
Well, there's a new company out of Silicon Valley called Orchid, and it claims to be the world's first whole genome embryo screening company. So here's how it works. You want to do IVF and, in vitro fertilization, right? So, usually couples who are having trouble conceiving, there's issues that those are the ones that are going to do this. But the idea is that everybody who would want to screen for terrible diseases their child might have should responsibly do this. That's kind of their pitch. And what's new is that they're able to sequence 99%, virtually 100% of the genome of your embryo after just 5 days. There's like 125 cells. They can snip off 5 of them. And they have this patented, this is what's new. I don't know if it's patented, but their new thing is they can amplify that little tiny bit of the few cells and get full DNA sample as if it was saliva or blood. And with this, you can now run a whole lot of tests. Previously, if you would just be some chromosomal tests, so you're seeing if the kid had Down syndrome, you could see the sex of the child, all of that. But this blasts open the door. So there's conditions that are regulated by one gene, and there's 1,200 of those that they will test for. And then there's ones that are a mix of genes. It's not just one, and there's 10 or 12 or something like that of those that they test for. So if a couple goes in, so they have to go through the IVF process, and harvest the eggs, and you might get from the process every cycle something like a handful to 20 embryo that you can fertilize. So then you fertilize them, you wait, and they run these tests.
On each one.
On each one. So you're paying for each one that the whole test sequence is run on. And then you have, let's say you have 15 left in the end. You have 15 that are fertilized. You get a report about all 15, and you kind of go through and pick the one that you like best.
And you kill the others.
Well, it's up to you what you do with it. Of course, that is logistically what's actually going to happen to most
nobody's
of them.
going to say, I'm going to take all 15 of these, even the ones I'm not picking. Of course, you're going to
Exactly. There is something called, I can't remember what they call it, compassionate insertion. Anyway, you put it in, and it's got a very low chance of surviving, but at least you didn't kill it. But, not many people. This is a very, very minor group of people that will do this. So, but here's a few interesting things about this. So, of course, it's pitched. Her backstory, okay, the CEO and founder is a 31-year-old woman named Noor Siddiqui. And she...
You're about to say Elizabeth Holmes.
Sounds very similar, doesn't it?
And
just need a small sample.
We're missing the turtleneck.
She founded this company. We don't know much about her. I kind of tried to look her up. She has computer MS and a BS in computer science from Stanford. She taught a course of reproductive technologies, something like that. She really doesn't have.
For the Department of Defense.
She founded this company. I looked at the website. I couldn't. There's no more. She's not on the website. There's no more information about her. Just some scientists who kind of created this, but there's no other even employees on the website right now. Her bio page has it's 50 words, her bio. So anyway, I don't know too much about her, but I was watching an interview on podcast, New York Times podcast called Interesting Times. When she was in elementary school, her mother started to go blind, a congenital illness that there was no family history of, there's no cure for. And this motivated her to want to start a company like this, doesn't want other people to go through that. But I want to play you, and we'll get into lots of interesting topics, but I want to play you this clip from the interview, which I think will serve as a jumping point for further conversation.
Roll it.
In the world you're describing, your mother would exist as an embryo, right? Not your mother as an adult human being, your mother as an embryo. And someone running an Orchid-style program would look at that embryo and say, we're not going to implant that embryo. Does that bother you at all?
Look, that question has, again, extremely dishonest framing and dichotomous reasoning. So let me just walk you through my grandma's life situation. So do you support women or girls getting the chance to finish high school? Do you support girls getting the chance to choose who they marry and when they marry, right? Well, my grandma
I think somebody's doing some dishonest framing here, but I don't think it's me.
No. different people are getting born because girls are finishing high school. Different people are getting born every time a woman rejects a man on a first date. So I think it's
I'm not asking about the set of choices that bring embryos into being. I'm asking about the embryos themselves. You're running a business and you're saying it would be good to live in a society where the embryo that became my mother was assessed and ruled out of bounds. And I'm just asking you what the actual status of that embryo is. Does it matter? Is it, like if I took the trays of embryos that contain you and your husband's embryonic children and I threw them in the river, what kind of crime have I committed? Have I committed a property crime? Like, should I pay a fine? Like, what have I done?
So are you saying that you want to criminalize IVF and that you should ban IVF?
No, I think we should outlaw whatever type of murder she's invented.
Well, here's one thing. Even if you kind of agree with her premise, like if you used her technology as you described it, it's like you're looking at so many things and it's so random. It's like, okay, maybe she still would have picked that one because her mother went blind, but in the other combination, her mother would have developed Alzheimer's or something. Even along that line, it doesn't work unless you start to actually use the CRISPR technology to then you're custom making the babies.
But this is all hypothetical and we don't even know if it works.
Is that true, or it sounds like it's already there?
Well, okay. I mean, they say that they've done the studies because they can test. Okay, there's two things that they've done that is unique. So the one is amplify the cells or the DNA, and the second thing is they have a proprietary algorithm that will tell you the probability of these different conditions, and that's on the basis of that you're making your decision.
You know what this is like? It's like embryo Hunger Games. It's like the strongest of the bunch is the one that gets to live. You know what I mean?
And here's the other thing. Of course, if there's some really horrible disease, your child's not going to make it, to age 1. Everybody could be on board with why you might want to screen for that.
Well, they already
right?
do.
Correct. Well, there's a certain limited, narrow band of things that they can test, but with this technology, in theory, you can test for so much more.
Actually, that's a good point that I just made. That they already do.
But it's just like I said, and usually, IVF, they can test it too, but usually you have to wait till the person's pregnant, right? And then you do. So her future world is, this should be available to everyone. Of course, it's very expensive, so the government would pay for that. This should be available to everyone because who wouldn't want to give their child the best chance at a healthy life, and not have them suffer
eugenics.
Unduly. Exactly. Well, we had the whole, Sweeney, the gene.
Yes, we did.
Everyone was all worried about eugenic messaging coming through. But if you think about it, so, okay, let's pretend right now only the people who can afford it can do this. And then obviously that's a problem because you're going to have the rich having the super race, because you can also test if they're, different kind of mental health disorders. You can test for probability of high intelligence, for extreme athletic ability. All those things are available.
But I feel just from my own experience in life, there's a downside to every positive. You know what I'm saying? Then you're going to always screen for the most smart. But then they'll also be the most depressed, possibly. There are these types of things.
Well, what if you can insert the CRISPR process, which they're not?
This is a godless. This whole thing is godless, and I don't like it.
Think about it even further, right? If you just take that beautiful, case where you've got this terrible disease and you can screen for it, okay, fine, right? But now there's going to be competition, you got to keep up with the Joneses. If they're doing it, I don't want my kid to be at a disadvantage. Or what if it becomes, the government pays for it, so everyone's doing it. But you don't want to do it because, you've got an ethical issue with it. They're saying they're not going to force anyone. But it's like, well, your kid gets a disease. Why should we all pay for that? No one should pay for that. Oh, and shame you for, not doing the responsible thing, and taking care of your kid. There's just so many different ways. The other thing I was thinking of is, I watched the Lex Fridman interview with Jeff Bezos because you recommended it the other week.
Did you like it?
I did. And one of the things that Jeff Bezos said, which I thought was really interesting, is that there's two kinds of decisions, one-way door and two-way door decisions. So the two-way door decisions are the ones where you can make the decision. If you don't like it, doesn't turn out well, it's easy to just turn back and go through the door. It's not a big problem. The one-way door decisions are ones where it's pretty much irreversible or so expensive and difficult to reverse that you should look at it from every single possible angle. Be slow on that decision. The other ones you should make quickly and decisively. But for these ones, you should be very, very slow, deliberate, think of all the different angles, bring all the different stakeholders, right? think about this kind of decision. This is a total one-way door kind of decision, right? That we're going to go into this technology and push it. One random Silicon Valley entrepreneur is going to make that decision. Like, are we okay with that?
My concern is, do you give them the rights to your genome? Like, is that part of like the terms of service? Because I'd be worried about what they're doing with like the data on people's genomes. Like every ethical everything aside, like if you're handing over your genome and giving them access to it and letting them read it and mess with it, like who owns the copyright on that? Like, what do you give them?
Okay, that's a second or third order problem. I mean, yeah, that's also a problem.
The main issue here, I don't know if that's it, but I don't even. It's a terrible. This is like really horrible. I don't even know how I want to say this, but it seems to me that this is like some creative new form of eugenics. That's what it seems like, and I have a fear that this will turn into like a national security thing, where we want the most fit citizens, and we would put ourselves at a disadvantage if we don't do this and have very strong and capable citizens. Other countries like China, they've explored some embryonic testing to try to make some superhumans.
They're already doing it.
They're changing eye colors. They're doing stuff like that. You know, this becomes very scary when you consider the fact that, you know, government might get involved in the future and they might want to pick out a master race here, just like you were saying before with the elites. It might just be more generally to the group of people in your nation. And then other states would be going around trying to do the same. So if we don't do it, we'll feel pressured. Oh, we're going to fall behind.
You know, it's like gamified eugenics. It's gamified eugenics. That's what they're doing.
Okay, I will give it the other side, I guess, since not everybody can be on the same side. It is an aspect. There is an aspect to it where it's like if you have a kid, you do want to give him the best, and if it's like if you can avoid passing along like some bad disease, and I can imagine that being a plus. Tiffany, what's your opinion? Would you be interested in this type of like if your kids were selected this way rather than like you kind of get what you get?
I mean, I feel like it's a slippery slope because you could easily go into the playing God realm. Like we were talking about, it's not yet the CRISPR technology, but you could go in there and be like, well, I want to pick this and this. You know, it's like, where is that line if you start going down that?
But also, don't forget if this is applied widely, we're talking about IVF, right? So that means you're completely divorcing, like, she makes a comment that, you know, sex is for fun, Orchid is for having babies. You know, so it completely separates those things.
But credit to that journalist there for really putting her on the spot.
It's a very interesting interview all around. I would actually quite recommend it because he actually goes into the thing, you know, that I just said, and he actually reads this poem at one point that is, what is it? When we make love, there's the footsteps, I hear footsteps of baby. Anyway, it's basically talking about this process and kind of asks her, you know, this thing that poets write about and have always written about, is there not something lost there?
You know what this is going to be exactly like, just based on what you're saying. It sounds like that book, Brave New World, where, you know, effectively what they were doing in the book is they were editing, you know, the embryos so that they're better set for certain jobs. And so you have your leadership class and your elevator operator and so on and so on. But if you're thinking that what the parents are doing is trying to gene edit or gene select based on traits that lead to certain occupations, what happens if they oversaturate one occupation? You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's
like the learn to code, right? Everybody's going to learn to code.
Well, what's going to happen is you start needing to see what the market is, and you're like, okay, well, kid, you're going to be like the elevator operator. You're going to be, you know, little Bob the plumber. You know what I mean?
I mean, look, this is really, in my opinion, the degradation of the worth of a human life.
No offense to plumbers. It's actually one of the best paying jobs out there.
Yeah, but come on. Anyway, did you have a final thought here?
Yeah, no, I think it's just totally contrary to the sanctity of life.
I will say, though, from a marketing perspective, if they somehow are able to raise enough capital to get Sydney Sweeney on to do an ad campaign where it says Sydney Sweeney has good genes with, you know, spelled Genes, they would go very viral and more people would know about them. But I don't want that to happen. So I hope that they don't watch this program and get that good idea and implement it. Anything? Did you want to mention something about Sydney Sweeney?
I did, but I think we should leave it there.
All right. All right. All right, I know exactly what you're thinking. That was a great clip you just watched. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to follow and also check out either these videos or maybe they're on this side. I don't know which side they're on, but we set it up. So these are the videos that YouTube is suggesting to you as the best ones that you'll probably like the most. So check them out, this side, and until next time.